Everyone, we'd like to call the meeting to order and welcome everyone. Mr. Ganell?
This meeting is being held in accordance with the schedule of meetings adopted at the organizational meeting held on January 6, 2025. Adequate notice of this regular meeting of the Kenilworth, or the special meeting of the Kenilworth Board of Education has been provided to the Home News Tribune, the Star Ledger, the local source on January 16, 2025. A copy has been filed with the Kenilworth Borough Clerk, posted in the board office, the Kenilworth Borough Hall, Brearley, and Harding Schools, as is provided by the Open Public Meetings Act. An additional notice was provided to the local source. An advertised budget appeared in the April 17th, 2025 edition of the paper.
Thank you, Mr. Ganell. Can we please rise to have salute to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Ganell, could we please have roll call?
Minor? Here. Crincoli?
Here.
David? Ferrara?
Here.
Haberther? Erdina?
Here.
Ladati? Here. Panici? Zimmerman?
Here.
We have quorum.
Thank you. Do you want me to do purpose, or do you want to?
Sure.
Purpose of tonight's meeting is to present the 2025-2026 annual school district budget to the community, adopt the budget, and approve all regular agenda items. Okay, at this time, we are now going to open up the meeting to the public for,
Wait,
you want to do that first?
yeah, presentation first.
You want to do it first? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So they have something to comment on. You know, they can throw stuff at us. Okay. Ready?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm pleased to be able to present the 25-26 budget for your consideration this evening. This evening marks the culmination of months of dedicated work as we finalize the Kenilworth District's 25-26 annual school budget. In previous meetings, we carefully examined the complexities of our expenditure, impacts of state aid fluctuations, particularly the challenges posed by the reduction and the integration of construction projects associated with the 2022 referendum. We also navigated the technical aspects of the budget submission to the Executive County Superintendent while conducting a detailed analysis of our revenue streams and available resources. Tonight, in accordance with our statutory obligations, we formally present the 2025-26 budget to our community. This presentation will highlight key elements of the budget, including its tax implications and addressing anticipated challenges we occurred in shaping next year's financial plan. Our goal is to provide a clear and comprehensive overview of the budget structure and its broader impact. In addition to these public presentations and discussions, multiple committees and members of the administrative team have worked tirelessly behind the scenes to bring this budget to fruition. I want to extend my sincere thanks to everyone involved in the process, especially Mr. Ladati and the Finance Committee for their time, insight, and commitment. Before I turn it over to Mr. Davies, I want to take this moment to express my personal gratitude for his leadership, patience, and steady hand during the past few challenging months. He quickly recognized the urgency of our financial situation, and I am confident that the district is on a promising path forward under his guidance. One second. All right, yeah. Well, this evening we're going to be reviewing the budget goals, impact, and school experience, the budget status, including revenues and expenditures, bank cap, revenues, tax levy, and debt service.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Mr. Ganella. As you said, it has been a challenging few months, right? This is my first year as superintendent, and to face the kind of budget situation that we are in is not how one would picture one's first year as superintendent. It's been a tough few months, and I just want to say thank you to the board for your support. Thank you to Mr. Ganella for all of your hard work behind the scenes, and also thank you to the teaching staff. there's been a lot that we've had to navigate through, and everyone's been doing so very professionally and have had patience as we try to move through a lot of decision making and a lot of tough decisions. So thank you to the teaching staff for all of your support as well. As I had indicated back in March when we launched the initial presentations into the budget, I focused on these goals. I just wanted to reiterate these goals with you. We knew going into this, we had a lot of indicators that we were going to be losing state aid. So we were anticipating that when we entered the budget process from the get-go. But we want to maintain our focus on academic achievement, and that is a priority for us. It's one of our district goals, and we maintain that as a huge priority to focus on academic achievement no matter what we're thrown with state aid. We want to continue to fund programming to meet the needs of diverse learners. That is essential as our diverse learning population grows. We are committed to maintaining our curricular, co-curricular, and athletic opportunities for students. We do not want to be in the process of cutting programs. Despite the cuts, we are able to provide some new course offerings and career pathways, specifically at David Brearley, so I'm excited for that. We're continuing to enhance innovation by building our middle school innovation and STEM lab, and all of this while upholding our fiduciary responsibilities to the community, and I'm proud of that. I've worked a lot with the community these past few months, and I can proudly say that we are respectful of what the taxpayers are doing to support our school system through the referendum, through the regular budget, and I appreciate the support, and we are responding in kind by being responsible to the community. The impact, there is some significant impact, and as I said at the beginning of my portion of this, and Mr. Ganella reiterated it too, this has been challenging. There is an impact here. We've lost a lot of state aid. We've had a number of non-renewals due to budgetary concerns. That number totals 9 staff members district-wide. That is a large number for a district our size. 9 individuals will no longer be with us, and these are people who give of themselves to our students, and it is a sad statement that is written up there that we've had to non-renew for budgetary reasons 9 staff members. That does include 1 administrator, so we are reducing our administrative team, and I wanted to make sure that we are in partnership with the teachers, that they're not just taking the hits, so are we as an administrative staff. So that was an important component of our budget, but that is an impact as well. We're losing administration, we're losing teachers, and that's tough. We did have a couple of retirements, so we have some attrition due to retirements. In some cases, those are being filled with folks from inside, and in some cases are not being filled. So that is a reality. We are going to be dealing with larger class sizes. There's not a way around that at this point, given our fiscal situation. We're able to maintain the class sizes that we believe in our lower elementary school, but for the upper grades, the middle school and the high school, there will be an experience of higher class numbers. Not excessively high. We're not going into 30s, but we're up in the upper 20s now, specifically at the high school level. Also some middle school. So that is an impact, and it's something that we have to face as a district. It's something our teachers have to struggle through. We don't love that, but it's where we are. And then, of course, we're not cutting programs, but there is some shrinking, as I call it, of non-required programs and services. And that's an unfortunate reality of where we are with our budget. So that's some of the impact. On the plus side, the school experience the budget process does do the following. We continue to fund the materials and resources that our teachers need. We have a new math program coming on board. We're still continuing to focus on literacy, innovation, as I mentioned. We're proud of our ability to provide full-day pre-K at Harding, and to do that at no charge to the taxpayers. That's through the grant that we're going to be applying for that you saw at our last meeting. We are increasing some course offerings and programming at Brearley at the middle school and high school levels. That is exciting, despite some cuts in other areas. We are able to keep all of our athletic and extracurricular programs intact. We continue to do professional development, and we, as I said, have found some efficiencies within the leadership team. So There is some negative impact to our budget, but these are ways that we are forging forward, and we're making sure that we're producing and creating a top-notch school experience for our students. Again, a thank you to our teaching staff and all of our educators for being on board with us on this one. I'm going to turn it back to Mr. Ganella now for some further information about revenues and expenditures.
Okay, challenges. As previously discussed, this year's budgetary challenges are significantly more complex and difficult to overcome than they have been in prior years. I remain deeply concerned about the long-term impact of the restrictive budget cap, particularly on the sustainability of our programs. Coupled with rising demands for extraordinary services, inflationary pressures, and diminishing reserves, these constraints present significant challenges to maintaining the quality and breadth of the educational experience we are committed to providing. This overview highlights our expenditures and identifies specific budget areas most affected by the reduction of the equalization aid. Of particular note is the modest increase of just $27,407 in Fund 11. This represents a growth of only 0.08% in expenditures tied directly to our core mission, underscoring the financial strain we face in sustaining high-quality programming. Overall, the budget has decreased by nearly 6% due to largely the requirements of Generally Accepted Accounting Principles, or GAAP, which require us to adjust the current year's budget to account for outstanding purchase orders. We continue to apply a zero-based budget approach, aligning resources with district priorities. The dramatic shift this year, driven by significant aid losses, have forced us to make tough decisions and allocate resources and staffing, as Mr. Davies just stated, where they are most urgently needed. So where do we stand today? The first chart presents a year-to-year comparison of the budget using unadjusted figures, revealing the real impacts of the aid reductions. The second chart, adjusted for the prior year encumbrance, aligns with the state's budget submission requirement and GAAP standards. Another way to look at expenditures is from a programmatic standpoint. This visual breakdown demonstrates how funds are allocated across various programs, offering a clear snapshot of how we prioritize our resources. This is going to be an adjustment year, moving from last year to this year to next year, because of the middle school and the shift of resources going from 6th grades from Harding to Brearley. But you can see there that the Harding budget is represented by about 20% of the budget, Brearley's 27%, special ed 23%. Athletics is 2%, undistributed programs is 13.3%, and employee benefits and insurance is about a little over 14%. So when you get into revenues, ensuring a balanced budget is both imperative and legally mandated. Unlike the federal government, unlike the state government, we have to provide a balanced budget. This revenue overview highlights several areas, including the significant reduction in equalization aid, the increase in the tax levy, and the use of reserves. The board has completed its commitment to offsetting the cost of the referendum through capital reserve contributions of $2 million, an important factor in our financial planning. State aid. As Mr. Davies indicated, we did lose equalization aid. Despite reports of increased state aid, we are in fact losing aid. This discrepancy stems from how certain aid categories are defined. The Department of Education excluded stabilization aid from its calculations, even though we relied on that funding this year. And that was $634,000, a significant amount of our budget. The loss of that aid is real and substantial. Choice aid remains a critical piece of our budget, currently funding nearly $3 million, or $18,620 per pupil. Its consistency is vital to sustaining our programs and services. The board should continue to lobby the legislature to expand that program, including the sixth grade, could generate an additional $465,000 a year. There's a misconception out there that if we just eliminate the choice kids, basically what would happen is your tax levy would go up about $2.5 million. So it's a significant amount. We continue to confront the structural disconnect between the School Funding Reform Act and the 2% tax levy cap. While the state calculates that our community can afford a greater local contribution, the tax levy cap prevents us from raising the necessary funds. The result, a significant reduction in equalization aid and no viable method to offset it. While the state has provided an option to exceed the 2% levy cap under certain conditions this year, we ultimately determined that doing so would place too great a burden on the taxpayers. Still, we remain committed to pursuing all viable options for long-term stability. Use of bank cap. Bank cap allows the district to retain unused taxing authority, but Kenilworth has generated very little bank cap in recent years. Without significant changes to the state aid distribution, we do not expect to generate more in the near future. It is essential to understand that bank cap is not actual money, but just taxing authority. These balances, the recapitulation of balances, governed by law, play a vital role in budget planning. We are proposing to appropriate $1,081,416 from unassigned and restricted fund balance to provide direct tax relief, and $1,100,000 from capital reserve to be fund referendum-related projects. Those projects are directly associated with the bond interest proceeds that we've invested the bond proceeds. So there's no tax impact on the community to do those projects. Use of reserves. Our over-reliance on reserves to offset the tax levy is not sustainable. While it can provide temporary relief, it does distort long-term financial planning, impacts future tax cap calculations, and can jeopardize program stability. So it's very important that we manage our reserves properly. Unfortunately, we don't have much choice to that first line to do so. In an ideal world, we would be putting some of that money in a capital reserve or a maintenance reserve for future use. But right now, we don't have that ability. Otherwise, we would have to cut an additional $1 million from our programs and staffing. So these are some of the capital projects that we're proposing for that $1,100,000. Safety and security upgrades of $285,000. Middle school and addition improvements of $410,000. Site improvements of $405,000 for a total of $1,100,000. Calculating the tax levy is a pretty simple process once you have all the common denominators, and those common denominators are the various sources of revenue. So once you come up with your various sources of revenue, you take your total budget, you deduct those various sources of revenue, and whatever is left is what your tax levy is. So in our particular case, our tax levy is set right now at $23,367,175. So what is the tax impact on the community? The current expense increase reflects a 2.75% rise in the local tax levy. Debt service increase stems from a decrease in the capital reserve contributions over the from last year to this year, or from this year to next year. The levy does stabilize in FY27 once our reserve commitment is fulfilled, and I'll go in a little more deeper detail later on. I have a slide that can show that to you as well. Comparative data, current expense excludes debt service. So this slide highlights the complexity of interpreting tax data. The tax levy has increased by 16.17% since 2020, while the tax rate has increased by 22.23% over that same period of time. This is due to the net valuation taxable decreasing by nearly 5%, largely due to the Merck property revaluation. So you can see there, the second column shows that our current expense tax levy has been pretty consistent in the twos, but you can see the tax rate has been fluctuating as high as 8.3%, even though our tax levy was only at 2% in 2025, and that has to do with the valuation of the community. And you can see how, if you go over to the net valuation, you can see how that in 2025, that net valuation decreased by almost 6%. That had direct reflect on the tax rate, which we, as a school district, have no control over. Okay? Meanwhile, equalized valuation and district income are key to state aid indicators, have risen sharply by 61.31% and 32.75%, contributing to our ongoing loss of equalization aid. So those are the two figures that we're concerned about. It's the good thing, and it's the good and the bad of the state aid formula. It's nice to know that the community's district income has risen by 32.75% since 2020, and the community's value of the community has risen by almost 61%. However, it does have an impact on the state aid, so that's the challenge. Debt service. There's been much talk in the community regarding the impact of the referendum on the community and the overall tax bills. So I thought we could take a moment to delve into that. We have two outstanding bonds: the 2016 refinancing of the 2009 $13.9 million referendum, which was for infrastructure needs, including roofs, windows at Brearley, doors, upgrades to electrical and ventilation systems, and that bond expires in 2029. The 2022 bond is for the most recent issue and projects associated with it, the addition, the auditoriums, the athletic fields, and so on and so forth. That expires in 2048. So this slide illustrates how debt service and the state's contribution to our referendum projects. It's calculated based on the eligible project costs and the district's annual debt repayment schedule. As I mentioned earlier, I wanted to do a little forecasting of where we are going with the debt service tax levy. Starting with the 2023-24 year, the debt service tax levy was relatively low, despite it being the first year of the 22 referendum costs were included in the budget. That year, the board contributed $1,525,197 from the capital reserve to reduce the tax impact. In 2024-25, the board contributed an additional $474,803 from capital reserve, so the increase that year was more severe, and you can see the difference there. In next year's budget, however, having fulfilled the promise of contributing $2 million, the increase is less severe. But forecasting to 26-27, you will note that the debt service tax levy will stabilize, and we will not see a significant increase or decrease until FY30, when the 2016 bond expires. So there's a lot of talk in town about, taxes going up. This was all calculated and planned. This is what the community voted for. So it's it's not like it came as a surprise to us. Maybe if people were not. It is a complex topic. I'm not denying that, but it is going according to schedule. So tonight's resolution on the agenda. adopts the 2025-26 school budget. We have not generated any or used any bank cap. We are including a cap adjustment for health benefits, appropriating capital reserve for various projects, and setting the tax levy. Final note. This budget year has presented significant challenges requiring tough decisions to preserve our programs. The impact of S2 on our district and state aid has been thoroughly discussed. It is crucial that we impress upon our legislators the gravity of the financial challenges we are confronting. Without acknowledgement of these concerns and without the ability to adjust the tax levy cap, many essential programs we value will inevitably be at risk. It is not a question of if, but when. The state must not penalize students and communities through drastic aid reductions until the school funding formula is properly reassessed and revised. Therefore, continued proactive engagement with lawmakers and stakeholders is paramount. Without it, we can expect further reductions in 26-27 with no reserves available to soften the impact as we did this year. And this year was softened, but could have been worse. We must urgently engage our stakeholders in a serious, transparent conversation about exceeding the 2% tax levy cap. Without this critical step, the district will face increasingly limited options, shrinking programs, rising class sizes, a decline in both educational quality and student support services. This budget reflects the difficult realities we face, but also the deep commitment to preserving the excellence of Kenilworth's schools, even in the face of relentless financial pressure. We have taken every responsible measure to protect core programs and minimize the impact on students. But let's be clear, the effects of S2 and the continued loss of equalization aid have brought us to the tipping point. Without meaningful intervention through revised funding formula or flexible tax levy laws, our ability to meet the community's expectations will continue to erode. We cannot keep absorbing these costs without real consequences. Programs will disappear, class sizes will increase, student support will suffer. And no one, especially not our children, should be made to pay the price for a broken funding system. It is time for our district and our community to raise their voices louder. The state must stop shifting the burden to local taxpayers while stripping away critical funding. And together, we must prepare for the difficult but necessary conversations ahead. Because without the aforementioned fundamental shift in how we are allowed to fund our schools, the choices we face next year and beyond won't be just difficult, they'll be unacceptable. Mr. Davies and I were discussing earlier today our presentations this evening and how he wanted to end on his portion on a positive note. So I haven't been very positive, so I will try to be positive now. We're still here. Our students are still coming to school every day. They're learning, they're growing, and they're thriving. Through strong financial planning, strategic use of reserves, and a laser focus on student needs, we will continue to overcome the challenges in front of us. With our investment in the referendum projects, we are reshaping our facilities and learning environments, not just for today, but for generations to come. Despite the obstacles of our schools remain a place of hope, of growth, and of opportunity. With your continued support and by raising our collective voices for fairness and flexibility, we will rise to meet the challenges. Our future remains bright. It has to be for our students. Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, Vince, you mentioned that proposal by the state to give us some tax reliefs or increase the tax levy. Mm-hmm. And I think, don't quote me on the numbers, but maybe you know them. I think we were going to get $180,000. But the taxes would have increased like 3.8 million.
Yeah.
In that exchange. So just so people understand, we're just not walking away from a.
Right.
The difference was ridiculous, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and we also recognize the fact that this year there is an impact on the overall tax levy because of the referendum. So we didn't want to burden the taxpayers
Right.
in addition to that. Next year, something that if that is an opportunity for us next year, that's something this board
We
will
need to
need
look
to
into.
seriously look into. Because we can't continue to just pass 2% tax levy caps, or tax levy increases. Just a couple more slides here. One of your resolutions tonight is to approve two playgrounds for Harding School. The first one is for the structure on 14th Street for ages 2 to 5. Be more for our preschoolers. You can see what that looks like right there. And the second one is, oh, wait, where'd the other one go? Did I lose it, or did I gotta shift them out of order here? Let me see. Here's the second one, which is in addition to our current playground along the softball field for 5 to 12-year-olds. It's more of a obstacle course challenge type of thing. So that's one of the resolutions on this evening's agenda. Another resolution on this evening's agenda is to approve a proposal for SSP, our architects, to develop plans for Harding pre-K renovations. These two rooms are located on the second floor above our existing pre-K classrooms, and basically the footprint would be exactly the same as those. Those are two classrooms I did in the 90s. I renovated those to increase our pre-K space back then, to give bathrooms and wardrobes to the students right there, and they came out pretty good. So we figured, you know what, let's try to do that here and incorporate that as well. Okay.
Vince, the two playgrounds were state targeted money.
Correct.
Correct. We're not taking that, we're not using our money for that.
We received additional state aid
Right,
this year.
specifically for that.
Yes.
So we couldn't do anything else with that money.
Correct.
So I just, want to make everybody clear that we're just not building two playgrounds and we're doing all this other, losing teachers or whatever we're doing.
Yep.
So I just wanted
And
to make
it-
sure that's, we're not.
The entire surface of the existing playground will be resurfaced, which is needed, so.
Can I ask you one more thing?
Yeah,
I don't know if you have the slide up to show that, like, the last 10 years of what the board has increased the taxes by.
not 10 years, but
I don't know if you had it up there yet.
this one right here goes from 2020. You can see the second one, current expense tax levy of 16.75% over that period of time.
So, but years before that, we had zero, we had
Yes.
we had a 0, 2 in there, or
Yes.
1 and 2, so the average is probably less than, pretty close to 2% over the last 10
Absolutely.
years of
Yes.
trying to keep the taxes down. So, okay, sorry, thank
No,
you.
That's okay. Yes.
I think like you said, this is a complex topic, and sometimes the community may not fully understand the gravity of it. But I think what our community certainly understands is the programs that their children are included in. So you mentioned certain programs being at the greatest risk with budget constraints. Can you talk about which programs you are most concerned about, so that we can maybe as a community rally and
I'll defer to our boss on that.
okay.
So,
Okay.
I mean, an example, in mental health supports, right? We've had full-time position that we had to eliminate in mental health. Mental health is a significant issue. We want to make sure that all of our students are coming to school ready to learn and able to learn. So in previous years, the board supported our investment in mental health, and now we're having to pull back on that. Is it mental health an essential component of a school? Well, yes and no. It's not mandated by anything, any policy. So we're pulling back with personnel and programming in mental health. That's an example of one that is currently happening. Moving forward in the future, I don't want to project what it would be, but we would be looking at what is bare bones essentials that we have to do based on state code and state mandate, and we'd be looking at anything that's not mandatory across grade levels. For example, certain things are maybe mandatory at a high school level, but they're not mandatory at an elementary school level. So then you end up maybe cutting something at an elementary school that kids love and parents love and create programs, but we don't have to have them. whereas in high school maybe you have to have them because there's a graduation requirement attached to that. I don't want to, scare people and say exactly what those could be, but that's an example of what we would be looking at in the future. We started to dip our toes into that this year, which is why I used the word shrinking, not eliminating. But if we have to go through the same process that we did this year in the future, we would be cutting.
Thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
the reason I'm asking is not to put either of you on the spot. The reason I'm asking is because I think if that does happen, then as a community of educators and parents and children, we need to also start working with our borough a little more closely and maybe to help us fill those gaps so that our children don't lose those opportunities if they fit there. That's really
I
what I was
appreciate that,
trying
and
to
I
get at.
just want to say that the Finance and Facilities Committee did meet with the mayor and the council rep. So we've had some, initial conversations about just this topic, and I think we need to all be in this together. To your
Right.
point, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted to make a comment too, to piggyback off what Dr. Concoli said. As parents and members of the public, you have to realize this is not isolated just for us. It affects every county and the state of New Jersey. So we need everybody collectively to look at, one, who you're voting for locally and in your legislation for the state, who are the state people representing us, and we need help from everyone to be supportive, to maybe write letters or to look at who they're voting for and what those people stand for and what they're going to do to help us. So there's a lot of good things about our community expanding, right? But if the state looks at it as your community is more valuable and you're making more money, we're gonna get less money, right? And we have to pick between the two. So I think it's really important for everybody collectively to understand we can't have it both ways, and we need everyone to really, if they don't understand or have questions, engage our board, engage you, to try to understand and what they can do beyond us at the council level and at the state level. And who you vote for does matter, and what you're saying does matter, because those people collectively are either gonna help or hurt us. So it's gotta just be, more than just what we're doing locally, and I think that's important to note for everyone. It's not just like a cut, and we know it's continuously getting harder. So I think that's something important just to say. Everybody thinks it, but we may not say it. But we think that that's really important. Primaries are coming up. You're gonna have elections in November. Looking at who you're picking, your state, who's gonna support us, is really important.
We did, besides the meeting with the mayor and council, we did meet with our state.
We did, yeah. They were, and we
And
put out,
toured and we said
we
everything,
mentioned
but-
that too, yeah. We put letters to them. We asked
When
about
you're-
expanding choice. We asked about brands. So we're being really proactive as a board. But even beyond that, any opportunities are, we have to keep pushing.
The issue is, when your state representative represents some of the biggest cities in the county with the most population, where does Kenilworth fall? I think we did a good job getting some things and letting them hear us, but, if all the votes are coming from Elizabeth and Roselle and wherever else they're representing, it's an issue, right?
Yeah, I remember last year we got cut $1.4 million. I know all of us immediately complained to our state legislatures, and they heard us because they did restore about 45% of
I
our
know.
state that we lost.
But the votes
also-
come from Elizabeth and
Well, yeah, the big
Hillside and
But
Roselle.
also,
and-
what they did for the state aid this year and what they're gonna do next year was they capped how much a town could lose and how much a town can gain. So like last year, originally we lost 18%. So this year, assuming the state budget passes with the numbers they put out there, every school district is only gonna lose 3%. On the other hand, every school district cannot get more than 6%.
So
So
that's
that
good.
alleviate
Yeah,
what happened to us last year.
right.
So whether that's gonna continue, obviously more and more people are talking about, you gotta change the state aid formula. I know Vince is always talking
Yeah.
about that, so, Trenton's,
Good, okay.
what
I
happens.
just trying to make a
To
point, I
Suzanne's
guess.
point, something that we can take a look at is, we kicked the can down the road one more year, but a lot of districts, it came to reality this year. So we can take a look at what's going on around the state and those districts that had to make significant cuts to programs. And we know there are quite a few districts that, serious cuts to programs, and you'll be shocked to hear some of them.
And staffing way more than what we
Staffing
had.
and right.
I think one school district actually sold a school building in regards.
That's right.
But in just to piggyback off of you, our votes count just as much as those big cities.
I know, but
They-
they have a million more votes than.
I understand, but our vote should value just as much as theirs.
I agree. I
And
think it does. I'm just putting reality check on it too.
No, I'm not trying to.
No, I understand.
I'm just trying
Good
to.
discussion.
But if, I think right now, you know, we can reach out to, you know, our legislators, but if there's like a cheat sheet in terms of who we need to contact and give it to the parents,
Yeah.
once they start getting 100 phone calls a day, be like, what's going on here? Then, you know, it trickles down. Like, look, you know, yeah, I live in Kenilworth, but I got cousins and family in Cranford and other towns and stuff like that. You want our vote? You're gonna have to start, you know, making sure that we're equally being supported here.
And the tax levy cap is kind of like, the state says, oh, you can raise your cap past 2%. Oh, great, we can raise it to 30, but we still have to pay for it. So they're going, that's something that we want to talk about,
Yeah.
more broadly. They're going to say, oh, well, we're going to cut your rate, but we're going to let you allow the tax levy cap to be increased. Okay, so you're just telling us the people are still paying more to keep the programs going. And the reality is we know the funding formula is not really reflective of what our community is making. So for people that have 2 and 3 kids who have an average income, you're spending so much money for your taxes. And so we wanted to be clear to everyone we know, right? And we're, even our team, everybody's working really hard to figure out a resolution. Everybody's kind of in the same boat. So we know it's tough, and, we'll keep working hard to try to find, whatever we can do to make it easier.
And I'm sorry, I usually don't talk too much, but I do commend the staff and your team for bringing pre-K. I see online that there's talks like, well, it's not a requirement, but it always gives us a better leg up in terms of getting our students in the schools, getting them the knowledge prior to them actually getting into the programs that they actually that first year where that actually starts to count. But I can see it in my daughter, and versus other kids from other townships and cities. Like she's autistic. You guys know that. But the word in terms of language and just functionality, she's already a leg up in terms of her counterparts in other townships. And I think that's awesome for our community. When our students are started from day one, getting the progress that they need to be better members of this community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good.
Anybody else questions, comments? No. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. At this time, we would like to open up the meeting to the public for comment. Is there a motion to open up the meeting to the public? Second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Biner, seconded by Mr. Hedina. All those in favor of opening the meeting to the public, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion's carried. Mr. Ganella?
Public comment will now be accepted. The Board of Education sets the limit for the public to speak to the board meeting to 5 minutes per person unless prior permission has been granted by the Board of Education to extend time pursuant to KBOE Bylaw 0167. For the record, when you approach the podium, please include your name and address prior to making your comments.
Okay. At this time, would any public like to come up and make any comments? Okay,
Seeing none, I close the meeting to the public.
thank you. Second? Okay, motion made by Mr. Ladowdy, seconded by Mr. Biner. All those in favor of closing the meeting to the public, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carried. The meeting is now closed to the public. Mr. Ganella, are we prepared to vote on roll call of
Should I
resolution?
just make one?
Sure, of course.
So just, I just want to go, because the
You
committee
wanna-
put a lot of work in. I just want everybody to know that, the committee reviews everything, analyzes everything, questions everything, we challenge everything pop a lot of questions to Mr. Davies and Mr. Ganella, in all our weekly meetings. Go over each line, each segment, each school, trying to make sure that we're getting, we took an oath to provide a proper education in a safe environment for the students of Kenilworth. And that's for the safe environment for the teachers also. Sometimes it's a big struggle of getting there and keeping the taxpayers in mind, which we always do. And that's why we questioned a lot of items. That's why we go over line by line. I mean, we don't sometimes get as much as books and pencils and everything else, like why are we buying chalk or something like that. That's how we get into this. So I just want everybody to know that we just don't approve everything. We start at a zero budget and we go on from there. And it's a tough experience, but it's something that needs to be done. And I think we owe it to the taxpayers also. So thank you. That's it.
I just wanted to make a note about resolution number 4 so that you know what that is. Resolution number 4 is basically you, the board, authorizing me to create and submit a chronic absenteeism corrective action plan to the county. So we learned of our absentee statistics when the state recently released its school performance reports. And if you've been following schools across the nation, you know that in the post-COVID era, student attendance is an issue at all schools across the nation. Kenilworth is no different. Our district rate of absenteeism is at 13.9%. This is below the state average, and that's a good metric to be below state average on. So the state is actually higher than Kenilworth, meaning more students are more chronically absent than in Kenilworth, but still, as a district, we are above the 10% threshold that the state thinks is problematic. So because we're above that 10%, we need to be on a corrective action plan. So I just wanted you to know what that is. So you'll be seeing, I'll share with you the corrective action plan, and the public will be hearing from me as superintendent, as well as our building principals, about efforts that we're going to be making in the future to ensure that our students are in the seats. We want our students to be in school. We want them to be present. It's important for them and their learning. The teachers want them to be present, so you'll be seeing that. And that's what resolution number 4 is about. And then last thing that I'll say is I just wanted to highlight a couple things. Nelsie Sully, our student liaison, is not here today, but at Harding last night we had a fantastic Harding's Got Talent event. It was really fantastic, and it was a kickoff to utilizing the newly renovated auditorium. There were 12 acts, fantastic skilled Harding students were there, and they just put on a great show for the public. It was a packed event, and it was really nice. Special thanks to Miss Leslie Bedford, who brainstormed, organized, facilitated, and even emceed the event. It was really fantastic. And then just kicking off, all of our arts events. The public will be getting this from me soon. Board members, you have one right here, but it's just a list of all the fantastic arts events coming up in May, basically, at both schools, Harding and Brearley. Specifically this weekend is the high school musical of Emma. So they're rehearsing right now as we speak in the newly renovated Brearley Auditorium. So it's great to see the referendum and the fruits of all of our labor and the fruits of the town taxpayers coming to fruition through our student performances. And I just encourage everyone to attend, board members, public, please come out. Our teachers worked super hard, our students are skilled, and it's going to be some great stuff this spring. So thank you for that.
Okay, I hate to ask another question. Are we tracking tardiness, lateness of the students also?
We do,
Because
yeah.
I drive up and down the boulevard and I see people like strolling into school. Like, I don't know if it's a big issue or not an issue.
Well, it's
It
an
is.
issue because
It's
we're on
a-
a corrective action plan, so it
It's
is
a
an
big
issue.
issue, yeah, it is a big issue.
Okay. So that, can we get something on that maybe for next meeting? I don't know. What
About,
you're doing
like, you
about
want
the
statistics
tardiness?
about? Yeah.
I don't know if we need statistics, but
Yeah.
something on it, maybe what we're doing about it or whatever.
Yeah, so
And-
part of the corrective action plan is creating a committee of teachers and parents and
Well-
coming up with what do we do about these things and how can we make it.
In getting, and I know when Kyle was the superintendent, one of the administrators, I don't know if he's here anymore, spoke about teacher absenteeism. I mean, how's that going? I don't know if that's better, worse.
I think our trends as a district mirror the trends nationwide
Okay.
across all, it's not just
Okay.
teachers. I think in employment industries, you're seeing higher
I-
rates of
I
absenteeism.
see it all the time at work, yes.
So I think we're no different
Okay.
than anywhere else.
I'm good, thank you.
And we did change the attendance policy last year, I believe. We voted on changing that, so maybe that's something we can present even to the newer board members about what that new attendance policy was if we pass that.
Okay, sorry, thank you.
Anybody else, questions, comments? No? Okay. Thank you. We'll want to do roll call resolution.
Yes, we have 4 resolutions on the agenda. Do any of those need to be voted on separately? No? Okay. So resolutions 1 through 4 on the agenda. Mr. Biner,
Yes.
Crincoli,
Yes.
Ferrara,
Yes.
Cardino,
Yes.
Wadati,
Yes.
Panici.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. At this time, Mr. Canelo, do we have a need to go into closed executive session?
Yes, we do.
Okay, can I please have a motion to go into closed executive session? Second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Ferrera, seconded by Dr. Concoli. All those in favor of going into closed session, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion's carried. Mr. Ganella?
Yes, be it resolved by the Board of Education, the Board of Education meet in private session from which the public shall be excluded to discuss the topic, student personnel matters, which private discussion is being held pursuant to section 7B and 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act. The matters under discussion will be disclosed to the public as
Thank
soon as
you.
final
Thanks, guys.
decisions are made and voted upon. Biner.
Yes.
Crincoli. Ferrara.
Yes.
Ardino.
Yes.
Ladati.
Yes.
Panici.
Yes.
Okay, we are good. We will not be returning to take any action this evening, so have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
You as well.